I have this BAKU power supply that stopped working. It's cheap but very useful for making prototypes. The problem was that the screen held to 25 volts, even though the spec said it should only be 15 volts and 2 amps. Checking the device, I found this transistor at the back. 2N3055, it's probably the part that controls the output voltage. I searched for the datasheet, and the document shows two types, NPN and PNP transistors. So, or is NPN? It would be this one. Now we can know what each pin does. To recognize the pins, they are close to the middle, but not exactly in the center. So if we cut it in half, we can find pin 1 and pin 2. Then, using a multimeter with a diode mode, we can test the transistor and see if it's bad. Because it's an NPN transistor, if we put the positive probe on the base, pin 1, and the negative probe on the emitter, pin 2, we should get a reading between 0.5 and 0.7 volts. Then, if we move the negative probe to the collector, we should get a similar reading between 0.5 and 0.7 volts, and other combinations should show an open circuit. I'm happy the transistor can be disconnected, it makes testing easier. So, the pin on the left is the base, pin 1, and the one on the right is the emitter, pin 2, and the metal case is the collector. Let's take some measurements. Between base and emitter, 0.5 volts. Between base and collector, 0.5 volts. Now, if I put the negative probe on the base, left pin, the measurement should show open circuit, but I get 0.8 volts in both tests. This is the problem, the transistor is damaged. Here I have a replacement transistor, exactly the same model. I will do the same test. Between base and collector, and between base and emitter, we get about 0.6 volts. Perfect. Now testing in the other direction. Between base and collector, nothing. Good. Between base and emitter, nothing too. Perfect. Let's replace it. It's alive again! Now, why do they use an NPN transistor, and why is the voltage control a little different in this power supply? In a typical power supply, the transistor controls the positive line. More or less voltage goes to the load, depending on what the transistor lets pass. But in this BAKU power supply, it's the opposite. The transistor controls the path to ground. It doesn't limit the positive, it limits how much goes down. It's like controlling the drain instead of the faucet. And why do they do that? Very simple, by connecting the collector to the ground. They can screw the transistor directly to the chassis, without isolating it. This saves materials and makes it easier. I hope this explanation was useful. Thanks for watching.